Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. The Datacron show where I talk about the new set and review it, what I think is going to be good about it, what I think is going to be not useful, and what could be ugly, and that could either be really, really good or really, really bad, depending on what the ability or stat is. We're going to start looking at the stats, move on to alignment abilities for level 3, faction abilities for level 6, and then character for level 9. Just up front, I want to say that they have kept the Relic 1, 3, and 5 requirements for this set that we saw initiated in set 10, which is an amazing thing. It would qualify as good for this set. But the dismantling rate has changed, which I'd say is bad. It reverted to the high credit dismantle rate from the old set with less of the Mark II upgrade mats, which is unfortunate. It's going to make it really hard to spend all those credits in time before you hit that cap while dismantling your old set. But anyway, let's look into stats. As far as the stats go, this is a very defensive set, and it's pretty solid in the stats, and it makes sense. I mean, set 9 was very defensive, health, protection, defense, and all that. And we got most of those returning. For the good category, we have health, protection, and crit damage. Almost the same as set 9, except we don't have offense. 20 to 30% health and 20 to 30% protection. That's for like the level 7 to 8 boost. For level 1 and 2, you're looking at, I think, 5 to 10%, and then in the middle, it's 10 to 20. Crit damage, I feel like it's been in every set for a long time. I don't know if it's just me, but it feels like it's been like 3, 4, 5 sets in a row. I'm not complaining. I think it's the only offensive-oriented stat here. As far as the bad, I just have Hellsteel. Hellsteel isn't always bad. There's cases where it is useful, but it's usually characters that have a ton of health and aren't afraid to fall below 100% protection. Like Rey or Springland or Kylo, Galactic Legend types that can go into the red and then come back. So you might want a couple with a good Hellsteel amount, but in general, you don't want a lot of Hellsteel in your Datacrons, and that's one to reroll. Ugly, strong ugly, we have defense, because defense is probably the most impactful stat out there, except for dodge, and we haven't seen that in 7 sets, and hopefully we never see it again. But the amounts they give, 75 to 100% at level 7 to 8, and even the level 1 to 2 bonuses, it just stacks up so high. Everyone's used to it by now. Just if they didn't have such a high number for it, it wouldn't be like ugly strong, but as it is, they give a huge amount, and it's really impactful. Then bad ugly, we got accuracy again. I hate accuracy. Like, unless they bring dodge into the game and deflection, accuracy is borderline useless. There's, some characters where they're gonna dodge a lot, like Jedi Training Rey under a Rey team if you let her ramp up, but she ramps so high that the amount of accuracy you're gonna get isn't gonna matter anyway. So a really, really bad stat, definitely ugly. Next up, we got the alignment stats, and we have light side and dark side. They're both pretty much identical. I'll just show them all real fast because there's 4 in each, and each of them are the mirror image of each other. There's only one good one, in my opinion, that you really want to go for, and that's whenever light side allies use a basic ability, they can crit chance up, crit damage up, and offense up for 2 turns. And that's not even a basic ability on their turn. It's just if they assist or counterattack, they're going to get all those buffs. So that's crazy that you have like permanent offensive buffs across your team, as long as you do basics now and then. If you have an assist heavy team, it's amazing. So I think that's just the one you want to go for everything. Now, I don't think you should spend all your reroll match just trying to get this ability up and running. You might want to, but if you take some of these others, just take the hits here and there, because it's going to take a lot of reroll mats to make sure everything is this. It's not like the 15% Datacron from set 9, where you wanted every single one to have that, like, for sure. The others, whenever a light side ally resists a debuff, they recover 2% health and protection. Could have niche uses. For this other one, the only one I could think of benefiting a lot from this is Padme, starting with protection up for 20%. That can convert into courage instantly. And then whenever a light side ally gains tenacity up, they gain protection up for 10 turns. Also, one of Padme team that might be useful with like Yoda or something, because he gives tenacity up out to the team. But in general, you just want all these offensive buffs. And it's the same for dark side. It's all the exact same abilities. Just replace light side with dark side. And that is definitely going to be the one you want for dark side too. Just fantastic. Just think of Malicos with these buffs permanently. It's going to be pretty crazy, guys. Maybe it should have even gone in the ugly category, but for right now I just put it in good because there are ways to get around it, like dispels, buff immunity, shock. It's not gonna like destroy you just because teams have this, but it is gonna be very powerful. Now we come to our first faction that we're looking at, the Imperial Trooper faction. This is one of the 2 dark side factions for this set. Each faction has 5 specific abilities to them, so there's 20 possible total level 6s. And in my opinion, there's 2 good ones, 2 solid ones for Imperial Troopers. We got whenever an Imperial Trooper ally defeats an enemy, they take a bonus turn. I put Iden next to that just because she's kind of the driving force on her team. She does most of the damage. So when she kills an enemy, she's going to get to go right again, and her turns are very useful. So that might be one you want for her. There's also, at the end of their turn, Imperial Trooper allies gain defense penetration up and offense up for 1 turn. If you have that level 3, where you're getting all the offensive buffs, the impact of this is kind of decreased, but you do get defense penetration up, which is going to increase your damage even further. And if you don't have that buff, I think offense up is if you don't have that level 3, I think offense up is the best thing from that. So this might be a good replacement. So after their first turn, they're always going to have offense up and defense penetration up. A couple bad ones. Whenever an Imperial Trooper ally inflicts a debuff on an enemy, all Imperial Trooper allies gain 4% crit damage, max 80% until the end of the battle. It's not necessarily going to be bad, but 80% total crit damage, that's easily replaceable with like just a Datacron stat, like a couple rolls. So I don't know if it's worth it just to have this as the level 6. There's other more impactful things. So it wouldn't be terrible across the board. It's not the best you can get. And then the other bad one, at the end of their turn, Imperial Trooper allies recover 50% protection if they inflicted at least 5 debuffs that turn. Would be nice, but it's hard to inflict that many debuffs unless you have an AoE or something. So it's not going to apply to all of them. And Imperial Troopers, a lot of times, are a team where you need to be up and running circles around the enemy to win. And if you're on the back foot, it's not going to go well. And it's a little bit different for Iden. Maybe Iden that works with maybe the new Moff Gideon team. This is actually going to be a good one. We'll see. I mean, I could see that. But for right now, my experience with Troopers, you don't want this. The one you definitely want is this. The ugly one. At the start of their first turn, Imperial Trooper allies gain offense equal to 400% of their current defense. Then they lose 50% defense. Now, I don't know how the math actually goes on this, because if you try to figure out the defense of a character, it's really hard to figure out because all you see is a percentage in their stat line. Now we have flat defense on mods, and I don't know if it's that number that they're talking about, the 400%, but we can't really see that number. So I don't know the actual impact of this, but if a character has a lot of defense, that's going to do way more for them. And I think in general, that's probably going to be the biggest damage boost for Imperial Troopers across the board, because it's not affecting like buffs or anything. It's just they get that impact, and then when they have offense up, it's going to go up by 50% times whatever they have here. And then defense, it's only 50% defense. Like, I don't know, we'll see. It's kind of like having an armor shred, I think. On you, so it might be impactful, but I think that's really going to make them super powerful glass cannons, so you might want to try it out. And we got unaligned force users with a focus on dark side, and this is going to be probably the most interesting faction for this set. There's a lot of good ones. I wouldn't say any of them are bad, really. First one we're looking at, whenever a dark side unaligned force user ally gains a buff or debuff, all unaligned force user allies gain 5% defense, stacking max 200% until the end of the battle. In general, that's the most like generically useful. It's gonna like impact everything, so you want to use it for when in doubt, you might want to use this. I put Malicos here, Maul, and Crew, because Crew, that's going to be pretty impactful. He's going to be a nice tank stack up. If you have this on the Seer team, when I put Malicos, I mean the Seer team. I don't think you can go wrong there. And then Maul, this also will benefit him, kind of just more than the others, and you'll see what I mean. So the next one is the target one, where if you target, when unaligned force user allies target each other with abilities, they both gain 5% defense, max health, max protection, and offense. So we saw this in set 7 with resistance, and it's going to come into play in basically the same manner. I think Rey is going to be the best use for it because her lifeblood, she targets allies constantly. Guy training Rey can target Rey. And then if you put Cat on the team, that could maximize it even more with her Sheen or Shien. You could target back and forth. But also that can work on a JMK team, her targeting JMK. They're both going to boost up a little bit. So just be intentional. You really need a lot of targeting for this one to be worth it. You don't really see that on a Seer team or like Maul or anything. So Rey is the best use case for it, I think. And then the next one, whenever an unaligned force user allies grant a buff to another ally, the ally gains 10% turn meter. I put Seer here and Reva tentatively, although I think both would probably benefit more from this defense one. Just because these guys, they could use it well. They do grant buffs to the team. A lot of Inquisitors, the Inquisitor team as a whole, does give out buffs to each other. So that could be a lot of extra turn meter. Do they need it? Maybe not. If you're facing JMK, it's utterly useless. So I definitely think this is probably the best. And when I'm showing these top to bottom, I'm showing what I think is the best at the top and then the bottom. Unless it's like black, ugly, then they're worse if they're lower. Actually, I did put one as bad. I don't like this one. The first time each unaligned force user ally falls below half health, all UFUs reduce their cooldowns by 1 and gain 10% turn meter. The turn meter gain isn't that big. The cooldown reduction is nice. I mean, that could be the one to go for in a Seer Malicos team. I'm not sure. Especially with Seer, you know, her big hit, this lightsaber throw. Getting to that sooner would be nice. Malicos' cooldowns are scary. Ahsoka Fulcrum's. It could be good. I'm just biased against this because it's like, I don't know, every other time I've seen it, it hasn't done much good. And maybe it could even be good for Inquisitors, but once you start getting them under half health, I don't know, you're in bad shape anyway. You basically just kill Reva, and so this will trigger one time, and then everyone else is falling apart anyway. So, I don't know. The next ugly but situational is Riposte for unaligned force users. Whenever they use a special ability, they gain Riposte for 2 turns, and there's 2 major use cases I can think of for it. You might be screaming Malicos, but he gives himself Riposte anyway. That's why I didn't put him next to this, because his first special gives him Riposte, so it's minimal impact for him. However, Star Killer, once you do a special and you're doing Riposte, you're attacking at a turn, which it's constantly hitting under protection, is going to be busted. Rey is going to be toast against this. I've been having trouble against Rey, but if you're hitting under protection against that team, there's nothing they can do to stop you. And then Supreme Leader Kylo, not always going to have a lot of attacks at a turn, but if you have him with Hux calls that assist. You could use First Order Special Forces TIE Pilot to call an assist. First Order Stormtrooper calls assists. So you could easily start getting a lot of out-of-turn attacks with Supreme Leader Kylo. Also, if you run him with like the Armorer and get 3 stacks of Beskar Ingot on him, he attacks out of turn. Granted, usually only do that against Lord Vader, and Riposte does nothing against Lord Vader because it's all health anyway. But I could definitely see that being pretty nasty. Although it's only for, yeah, I don't know. I looked at the rest of the unaligned force users and I didn't see a ton of use cases. Like Rey doesn't attack in a turn a whole lot unless you have Resistance Sierra Finn on the team. So I don't know. These are the only 2 that really stood out to me for Riposte, but in general, Riposte has a high ceiling for use and it's definitely ugly. Then we got Ewoks. This is the worst faction pretty much in the game, definitely in this Datacron set. I'm going to look at it pretty fast because it's not too impactful. There's only one Ewok team you can play. I think the ones you want to go for are whenever an Ewok attacks out of turn, they gain 2% offense until the end of the battle. Probably the best use overall. Either that or Retribution. Retribution, just in general, is pretty nice. It can help get your turn meter train going with his attacks out of turn. This one isn't that great. Whenever they crit an enemy, they gain 10% on their turn. They gain 10% offense for 2 turns. The limiting factors are on their turn, so it's not with the assists. If it were with the assist, that would be really good. Then for 2 turns, it's going to expire, and you're not going to stack super high before that expires. It's only really going to help Wicket or Nisa. Whenever a debuff on an enemy expires, Ewoks gain 2% potency and tenacity until the end of the battle. I don't think it's good. I mean, maybe you can get in a situation where you have infinite tenacity and then that's helping you out, but that would take a while. You'd have to inflict a lot of debuffs. And this one's plain ugly because there's only one stun in the whole Ewok faction. It's with Nisa on one ability. So you could say, whenever Nisa uses that one ability, and if she lands stun, then she gains speed up and offense up for 2 turns, and inflicts exposed for 2 turns, which can't be evaded. So if stuns were more common, that would be kind of nice, but there's only one character with one ability that does that, so it's trash. And that is the Ewok faction. And now, 9 Datacron sets later, we have looped back around to the Rebel faction last seen in set 2, which was very powerful. All of these are good. There's one you're going to want just across the board, I'm pretty sure. But it doesn't affect Galactic Legends, the one I'm talking about. So, Leia Organa, I don't know what you want to use. Maybe the ability block. Maybe you want to use Tenacity Up to everybody. It's like whenever you use an AoE, everyone gets Tenacity Up. That's kind of nice. Strong buff. But the other ones, they're all decent. Like, I'm not going to say any of them are bad, but it's just there's one that beats out all of them. The other ones that are good are whenever Rebel allies start their turn with fewer than 2 buffs, all other allies gain 50% turn meter. At the beginning of the match, that's going to be pretty nice. Like, think of Han Solo going. He shoots first, takes his turn. Everyone gets 15% turn meter because he didn't have enough buffs. But after a little while, you're going to have 2 buffs. Have at least 2 buffs. So that's why that's limited impact. And whenever a Rebel ally attacks in a turn, they dispel all debuffs on themselves. That can be very useful in circumstances, I'm sure. Like if you're facing a team that has a lot of damage over time. But I think the best one is this. And this is the one we have for Wookiees right now in set 10. At the start of each turn, if non-Galactic Legend Rebel allies have 50% or more turn meter, damage they receive is reduced by 75% till the end of the turn. That is crazy for pretty much every Rebel team. CLS, they get a lot of turn meter, and they're going to take barely any damage once they're over 50%. Mon Mothma, turn meter train. She might be actually very useful this season, even though I barely use her right now. It's going to be... They get so much turn meter, it's going to be hard to hurt them. Saw Gerrera, that would be nice. Like, I don't know how much turn meter they get, but they're kind of hard to deal with anyway. Even a San team, if you have Stormtrooper Han and Cara Dune, they're going to be hard to kill. Just across the board. Even with Leia, it doesn't apply to Leia, but it applies to her team. I think the best way to take her out is use JML. Target her specifically, gun her down, and not attack the allies until she's dead. So if you use that approach, this wouldn't help her, but if your opponent is going to use something else or they don't think that's the way to go, it's going to be really hard to kill the allies. Like, it's just ugly. It's just, this is so strong. The Rebel faction is so broad, and it's a big turn meter faction, so get a lot of these. Like, you have a lot of Rebel teams out there. Just try to get a lot of these. I don't think you'll regret it at all. Since Rebels are fresh on our mind, I'll cover their character abilities first, and there's a lot of them. It's not a balance, like each faction has the same amount of level 9 abilities. There's a lot of Rebels. So Leia gets one, Galactic Legend Leia, and it says second wind heals an additional 50% health and protection. If second wind is dispelled from an ally, you recover 100% protection instead. So that's a nice failsafe. That's really going to help out for durability with the team. It might be the one you go for if you have Galactic Legend Leia, but Drogens might beat it. Also says at the start of her turn, if no other allies have a taunt effect, the healthiest other Rebel tank gains taunt. It can only happen once per battle. Yeah, that's kind of mad. Like it's not even that big, like good. Why does it have to be limited to once per battle? So anyway, if you're using Jedi Knight Revan and marking her down, that's not going to even happen at all. Next one, we got Saw Gerrera, and this is like the one we had for K2SO in set 7. He gains 5% max health and max protection per relic amplifier level, and the damage he receives is decreased by 5%. So it's exactly half the bonuses you get from the Galactic Legend ability on Galactic Legends. But it's pretty nice. It's going to make him tanky. He's already kind of tanky, so just a decent level 9 if you're running him. And have him at R5. And then there's 3 bad ones, and they're not... it's like the abilities themselves are nice. It's just on the characters that have them, it's not impactful enough. Wedge. This is the one where I have the biggest possibility of being wrong in some way. I just can't think of it. Whenever another ally uses an ability on their turn, Wedge assists, dealing 50% more damage. So this is what we have for Ayla right now. It's at 10. But it's Wedge. Wedge, like when you do Ayla, when Ayla assists, she stuns and calls another ally to assist. Wedge just inflicts like defense down. So maybe like if you have Mon Mothma, have him on a Mon Mothma team or like a Saw team. He's assisting already, and then he assists again. Might be a little extra damage. I don't know. I don't see it being that impactful. But for like a Jabba cleanup, would be kind of nice. Then Akbar, whenever another ally attacks during Akbar's turn, Akbar and that ally gain 25% turn meter. So I don't know. It's not impactful enough. He's not a good character. Like, don't give him his Omicron. Don't use him in a lead. Just don't use him at all. Like, I don't know. It's just because he's not good. If someone else had this, maybe it'd be nice. Like CLS. That would be amazing if CLS had this. Then Rolo. She has the one that Darth Vader had in set 4. First time she's defeated, she's revived with 100% health, gains protection over time, 75% for 2 turns, and takes a bonus turn. So if you have someone threatening like Darth Vader back in set 4, this is amazing. But it's Rolo. It's like, he has one special. If she's used it already, then and it's on cooldown, she's gonna come back and do a basic big whoop, and then she just dies again. She's like one of the, she's on a Sana team if you see it at all, and that, I don't know, it's just not worth any kind of focus. Next up, the Ugly, which possibly is the best one in the whole set, but possibly not, is Drogon. And it's a matter of grammar, what I don't understand. At the start of the battle, all rebel allies gain... This is behind my camera, the way I'm doing this. All rebel allies gain Keen Stratagem, and Captain Drogon takes a bonus turn. Which is nice. That's a nice clause. And here's the part where I'm like, I don't know exactly how this is going to work. It says all rebel allies gain 200% max health, no comma, and are immune to ability block and fear until the end of their first turn. So what does the end of the first turn apply to? Is it just ability block and fear? The way it's written, it should be the max health and the ability and fear. But entire Supreme Court cases have been decided based on a comma, the placement of a comma or a lack thereof, and laws have been written incorrectly. I don't know how this translates to game code, but it scares me. If that 200% max health endures the whole match, that is overpowered for sure. It's insane. But if it's just the end of the first turn, it's kind of meh. Like, it's just, I don't know. Like Galactic Legend Leia, she's going to take plenty of turns. Like, she's going to take her first turn after, like, you might get one turn against them, and then she's going to take a turn and lose that bonus. But if that applies throughout the whole match, and it's just some kind of poor coding, if it's bugged, I'm just totally afraid that this is going to be bugged, and it's going to apply the whole time, even though it's not supposed to. So in that case, it could be ugly. But in general, I still think you probably might want to go for Drogon over Leia, but either one is not going to be super impactful unless that clause I'm afraid of turns out to, I don't know, make my fear come true. Next one is simple. We got Ewoks, good, Nisa, bad, wicked, ugly, Chirpa. So Nisa, you know, the best character out of the Ewoks. Ewoks have 10% offense stacking for each buff on them. Which, if you think about it, this stacking is redundant. Stacking, you should put that there when it's like they gain something. Because it's like, okay, when they crit, they gain 10% stacking. That means, okay, it's going to stay there. Every time they crit, they gain more. But when it's a steady state, it's for each buff on them. If you lose the buffs, you lose the offense. Like, you don't need to put stacking there. It's like 10% buff for each buff on them. I don't know. Unnecessary word there. And then Nisa gains 2% critical damage, stacking max percent. See, that's why you need stacking. Like, she gains it. It's not contingent on something that can disappear. Max 100% whenever she attacks out of turn. The first time each Ewok is defeated, they're revived with 100% health and protection. That's good. I mean, if you really soup up your Ewoks, have, like, high relics on them, they're going to revive. They're going to come back. Like, you need a good control over this Ewok team to get them down. Otherwise, they're going to run a TM train. Nisa's going to pop off, get so much damage, and you might just time out. So that is actually pretty strong. I'm not going to say ugly because it's Ewoks, but that ability on someone else is would be crazy in another faction. Then Wicket, 50% turn meter whenever other allies use special abilities on their turn. I mean, it's kind of nice. Like, he's going to get more turns, but it's still just Wicket. Like, you definitely don't get that over Nisa. Then Ugly is when Chirpa attacks at our turn, he recovers 20% health and protection. Like, big whoop. Like, I don't know. Do you really care about him being topped off that much? Is he that important? I don't know. Not that consequential. If you have Ewoks, absolutely do chirp Nisa, not any of these others. Now we come to the Unaligned Force User level 9s. This is the coolest faction in the set. But 3 out of these 4 apply to like the same team, so it's kind of disappointing in that regard. Because a lot of them are good. Seer Junda, she does extra damage based on her tenacity percentage, so it's like half her tenacity percentage is a multiplier. So 200% tenacity, she gets the max 100% more damage. If you think of her lightsaber throw, that's like aerial advantage and does a huge set amount. That's crazy. That's going to wipe out anyone. It's going to wipe out your R9 Savage with tons of bonus protection from Traya. So look out for that. That might actually be the way to go. Very strong. If you give her a lot of tenacity. And then Visas Mar, this one's actually very nice, and this is the only one that would fit on a Starkiller team, so it's like no trade-off, it's just get her, it's nice. Whenever another ally is defeated, she takes a bonus turn and her cooldowns reset, which is amazing. I mean, as long as she's not the one dying, like say Palpatine goes down, well, if he's whirlwinded by Rey, he's not coming back, but if Palpatine goes down or someone goes down, you get a chance right away to revive them, and it can happen over and over as long as she doesn't die. So we'll just want to build her to be a potato, like tons of health or protection or defense. Just make her survive. Someone goes down, she brings them back. It's going to be fantastic for that Starkiller team. So Riposte and then Visas Mar for Starkiller. It's going to be nice. And Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum. Whenever she gains a buff, all light side and all UFUs gain 2% health and protection, which is nice. She gains a lot of buffs. And then they have this one clause, which kind of makes her, this is mainly only helps for Grand Arena or Territorial War if you don't have the Omicron. When she has 4 more buffs, she ignores taunt, and enemies defeated by her can't be revived. So it's just kind of nice in Grand Arena. She can get around those taunts. I don't know. This would not be the one I go for, though, on that Seer team. And the ugly one, which, you know, it's not readily apparent to me that it is going to be, this is not like Afra. Like, that one was so overpowered. But this guy is so crazy already. Just the fact that he has an Omicron is just crazy. At the start of his turn, he gains 5 stacks of Edge of Madness and 3 stacks of Resilient Defense, which can't be copied, dispelled, or prevented. That means he's going to taunt for a few attacks, and you're going to get countered, and he's going to deal extra damage. Also, as soon as he gets 20 stacks of Edge of Madness, he gains a bonus turn and resets his cooldowns. So that's not fun if you're going against the team. If you're using that team on offense, that will be fun because you're going to get a lot more damage with him, a lot more extra exposure, more turns and attacks from Malicos, the better, because he does crazy damage. And the last faction we have for the level 9s, Imperial Troopers. There are 4 of them. Starting with Scout Trooper, whenever she inflicted debuff, her Imperial Precision ability. Did you guys know it was Precision? I didn't know that was a word. That ability gains 6% bonus damage, max 300% till the end of the battle. Imperial Precision grants Imperial Trooper allies potency up for 1 turn, and Imperial Remnant allies offense up for 1 turn. So if she is on an Imperial Remnant team, they're going to get potency up and an offense up for 1 turn. That's very nice. It's just solid all around. I don't know how much damage this ability does, but plus 300%. I'll take it. So that's going to be a lot of extra damage and potency and offense. Really nice. Stormtrooper, this one's great too. This could have a lot of uses, very widespread. Whenever Stormtrooper loses taunt, remove 50% turn meter from all enemies. I'm thinking throw that in a Lord Vader team, and that'd be nice. I mean, you lose taunt and you still have Mark on a team where put the Stormtrooper on a team where they're going to get taunt a lot of times. Give it a lot of potency, which, you know, I mean, that's different modding than you're normally going to have for it, but that is very powerful. 50% turn meter from all enemies, very nice. Next, we got Colonel Stark. Whenever Colonel Stark critically hits an enemy, he gains 10% crit damage, defense, penetration, and offense up to 200% till the end of the battle. So he's got an AoE. I mean, does his AoE, if they're all crits, that's 50% of all those things right there. He's not known as a damage dealer, but that can stack up pretty fast for him. So I think that might be that, or Stormtrooper could work on an Iden team. So yeah, just give it a chance. I don't know. I'm not gonna reroll like crazy between these two, but whichever one is gonna go nice on an Iden team. I don't know if that'll make Iden useful for me again, but both are pretty decent. Then ugly, bad, which is unfortunate. They gave one to Aiden, but it is crappy. The first time she falls below 30% health, she dispels all debuffs on herself and recovers 40% health and gains a bonus turn. Which, you know, she comes back a lot all the time. So if nothing else, you're gonna get one bonus turn out of the battle with her. Falling under 30% isn't too risky for her if she has other allies, because she literally can't die. She's gonna come back. I don't know. It's not too impactful. Like, it's a missed opportunity. I wish they gave her something really strong to boost her up, because it's not like she's so strong now that a boost would be overpowered. It would be actually very welcome and needed for her. So this is a missed opportunity to give Aiden some love. That's it for the abilities and stats. I just want to real quickly go over reroll priorities. I'm going to say reroll for stats. Yes, try to get rid of your accuracy and health steal. And you're going to be good. Reroll for your level 3. Try to get that offense up, crit damage up, and crit chance up. That's going to be the best one. Reroll for your faction. Try to get the ones that stood out in the abilities. The damage reduction for rebels. The extra damage from Imperial troopers. For online force users, get specific ones for each team you want. Not a huge priority reroll for them because they're all kind of useful. Just you can put the right ones where they belong. And then for characters, I'm gonna say no. I mean, I don't think any of these character abilities are so like important that you got to reroll for them. Even with online force users, like Seer or Malicos is gonna work just fine. Even Ahsoka Fulcrum might be nice, like okay. And then if you get Visas, then I don't know, that works with a Starkiller team. And for the Rebels, none of them are too great. If you have GL Leia, you're going to want to make sure you get either Leia or Drogon. But in general, the characters aren't the selling point of this set. It's kind of a nice balance among all of it. It all kind of works together in certain ways. So for those level 9 reroll, level 3 reroll mats you get, I'd probably use them on the stats to reroll, and that's just my take. That's it for this episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Let me know what you think. If there's some interaction I missed or some synergy that I have been overlooking, I'd love to hear from you. And I'm excited for another Datacron set. Hope you guys enjoyed as well. Let me know what you thought. Don't forget to leave a like if you did enjoy. And if you haven't subbed already, please consider doing so. Thanks so much, guys. See you later.